All right, I think I got it. It's a black screen. There we go. See if I can hear a little bit of what it sounds like. All right, I think I got it. All right, sound good at that little glance check I did. All right, I think I posted on Discord. That's also something else I need to start using again. The Undercast Discord. I can rename it to Fireside Discord, possibly. Say, hey, if anyone is still around here. All right. See if anyone's still in there. All right. You said it was episode 31?
31.
Episode 31. We got to get some cool music too. I haven't looked into that at all. For a while there I was doing the trend of you just start. You just start. You don't do any kind of intro or anything like that.
Right.
I kind of like that more. Seems more professional.
You'd be like Peter Griffin and just come up with dun, 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 dun.
I don't know that reference, but
Family Guy where he like makes his own like music,
yeah,
theme music as he goes along.
Diggity.
Yeah.
That was Rain and Blood. All right, episode 31, Fireside Comics and Fantasy. Today we're going to live up to that title because there actually is comics in this episode. So maybe last week we said, oh, we're going to change the name. We never talk about comics. What's the point in putting comics in the title? This week we're living up to our name. There actually is comic talk in this episode because I don't know if you know this, David, but I actually spoke to Jim Lee. We had words back and forth. Not many of them, but we did have we had about two or three actually. So
what you want me to write, kid?
Yeah. Well, that was like the biggest thing. Whenever I got done with the Jim Lee experience, which is what they call the ticket that I purchased. I walked away from it. And I told Becca, I was like, dude, I don't know how, but he doesn't look like he looks like he's aged maybe 3 or 4 years since the 90s. Like he still looks like incredibly fit for his age. It's amazing. I don't know where it comes from, but the Jim Lee genes are strong. That's for sure. I only hope that I'll be half as spry whenever I get to be his age. But so yeah, SC Comicon. We both got back from that. The what did we decide? It was the solar eclipse was today.
Solar eclipse today.
And so we got to talk about that. Did you do anything special for the solar eclipse? Anything fancy?
Stood on the back deck with glasses on.
I did the same thing, only I didn't even have glasses. I just stood on the back deck and noticed that it got a little bit darker. And then like an hour later, a little bit brighter again.
Yeah, what did you do for the one 7 years ago?
Oh man, so there's actually like a family history to the one 7 years ago. So my son is 6 years old, and we found out that Becca was pregnant on the day of the previous eclipse.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, so it was like she told me, and I said, "Oh, it's getting dark. I can't see anything. What's going on?" I said, "What did you say?" But no, seriously, like I was working at the company I work for now, but I was still a contractor, and I was working at the one here in Anderson, and
Okay.
and I don't remember if she called me and told me or like how it came to be, but yeah, it was the day of the eclipse that we found out.
And y'all didn't name him Eclipse?
No, we didn't name him Solar, Lunar.
Lunar.
No, nothing like that. We didn't do anything like that.
Was yeah, for the one 7 years ago, my wife was working, but my son and we sat in the backyard and
Yeah.
like had a picnic, and we made big sandwiches and stuff. So like, if you ask him now, like, what's your takeaway from the last Eclipse? He's always like, man, those are some good sandwiches. It had nothing to do with the Eclipse.
Yeah.
And then today it was just like he looked up there and was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
like,
today was uneventful for me. I was here by myself and I didn't have glasses. And then Becca got home just in time with glasses that I could look at the last. It had already it made a Venn diagram by that point, so I saw it separating.
Well, we didn't get the one 7 years ago. We basically got a full.
Yeah, we got the full
this
view
one
of it.
was like 80, like 80, 85, somewhere in there. So it never really got dark. It got it darker, but it didn't like the last one. It got dark like for a couple minutes, and I remember the bats came out and did all that. But this time, we were too far away. But it was still pretty cool. Like, it's, we got to see two, and I think they said the next one that would be viewable from the U.S. wouldn't be till like 23 something. So,
wow, that's crazy. Yeah,
unless you want to. Well, Cooper said, we could travel the world wherever the next one is. I was like, well,
you could do that.
Go ahead. Yeah. Go for
it. You could do that. That is always a possibility.
That is always a possibility.
I'm not sure what the limiting factor would be there, but it's definitely definitely a possibility. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid there was one. So I mean, I guess that's been the three within my lifetime, at least that I can remember. But there should have been. Maybe there should have been more. I don't know how this works. I'm not good at this.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not good at this. But yeah, that's cool. So I guess this will be the only one for my son for a while. Then it sounds like he'll be a good bit older whenever the next one comes. So I hope he enjoyed it. He did get to
see. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying he did get to look at it through the glasses. He did see what was happening. Yeah,
I got to see Halley's Comet when I was younger, which was really cool.
Yeah. Was that the comet? Was that the comet with the cultists that did the Kool-Aid thing?
Was it? That
was Haley. That was Haley Bop. Heaven's Gate. Yeah.
Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. I remember that when I was a kid. That was like everybody. That was like, I don't know. That was just in the zeitgeist. Everybody was talking about that event, and
right.
That was crazy. But
people going crazy,
dude. That's so wild. There's that Key and Peele skit where, have you seen the skit where they're like outside talking to the news? You need to look that up if you haven't seen it. So yeah, SC Comicon. We just got back from SC Comicon, and I got a feeling that we kind of had opposite experiences, but it sounds like in the end you had a really good experience.
Oh yeah, I had a good experience there.
Yeah.
But getting there, that was the big experience.
Yeah, so
the bad experience.
I'll give you the general. I'll just give you the general schedule, not all the events, but just so we got there super early. We ended up getting there way too early, and then we left. You were coming in when we were leaving, and we had already. So I was looking for you driving by whenever I was going down North Pleasantburg because you said, "Oh, we're sitting in traffic on North Pleasantburg." We ate at the Runway Cafe, the little airport restaurant right there. And so going down North Pleasantburg to turn to go to Runway Cafe, you must have been way further down at the time you texted me that. But we drove by looking for you, and then I didn't see you. Well, we had already gotten our food. We were eating our food, almost done with our food, and you texted me and said, "This is crazy." And so I messaged you back. I said, I don't know what I said, but you were like, we're still on North Pleasantburg. And I was like, what? We went through the whole restaurant experience, and you're still sitting on the road.
So you know how I'm assuming y'all probably come the same way. You come up 385, you
Yeah.
get off that exit, and then you take almost an immediate left.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so when we came up the exit from 385, there was like, one lane of traffic trying to turn left, but there was like at least two other lanes of people all with their blinkers on trying to merge into that. So I was like, there's no way we're getting to that left. And so we just stayed straight.
Yeah.
And then there's another turn that's just a little bit further down.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another light. So we got into the left turn lane there. And there was probably, oh gosh, maybe 50 cars in front of us. And it took us an hour and a half easily to turn, to go, 50 car lengths and turn left.
Yeah.
And then once we turned left, we parked automatically. It was like, and of course, when we left, there was parking places everywhere. There was no traffic. I was like, next time we're going to come at like 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's the thing. So we got there super early because of the Jim Lee experience. So I didn't know what time I needed to be there, because the way the thing they sent us online, it basically gave us a schedule for the Jim Lee signings, and it said 10 a.m. But it said be at will call as early as 8, and they said get there the earlier the better. Well, I thought that meant the doors are going to open at like 8:30 or 9, and so I said, well, let's get there at 8, and then I'll go wait in line and figure out what I got to do the Jim Lee thing. I'll come back at 10 to do the signature. And I'm sure I've got to get there early, but I didn't plan on getting in line at 8 for the Jim Lee signature. But that's what ended up happening. As soon as I got there, will call, didn't know what the heck I was talking about, and they said go down there with the Jim Lee stuff. So I go down there. There's other people in the same situation, so we all just form a line, and then the staff eventually shows up and they divide us up into a line. Well, I was like right at the front of the line, so like I'm basically in line at 8, just waiting on them to open the doors to do the Jim Lee thing. And I was thinking, I was still thinking the con is going to start at 9 or 9:30 or something. And so, Becca and Elliot got in line to get into the convention. So we're in 2 separate lines now. But I'm thinking, oh, they're going to get to go in. She can entertain Elliot while I'm dealing with this. But no, poor Elliot had to sit in a line for 2 hours.
Oh, yeah, right.
And
poor Becca.
yeah, I can't imagine how bad that was. But so I did I did that whole thing. I stood in line, and with these 2 guys that were awesome. One guy, I got one of their names because I ended up buying his comic, which I'll tell you about in a minute. But one guy in line was an artist, and he had a really cool like sword and sorcery like style shirt. It had like a woman with a cloak on it, and I think it might have had a sword or like a crystal ball. It screamed like old fantasy novel, art.
Right.
And so I asked him about it, and he told me that he does this comic called Remnant. And I went by his booth and I picked up 4 issues. Right now he has 4 issues out, and he's doing more. But me and that guy talked for 2 hours just about comics and fantasy novels, and like he was his wife was a school teacher, so we had that in common. My wife being a school teacher. Well, then another guy in line, he was a 2nd grade school teacher in North Carolina, and he was a really cool guy. He was just like a super X-Men fan, and like so we talked about comics with him. I had a really good time waiting in line for 2 hours. Honestly, that was like the highlight of the con for me, was just waiting at that line talking to those guys. And then whenever we got let into the convention, we ended up seeing each other and then like introducing our families to each other and stuff. I didn't exchange any names or numbers or anything, but it was like we made like best friends standing in line. But the way the Jim Lee experience went was, so they gave it, the package came with 3 tickets for 3 signatures, which too bad it wasn't 4, right? Because, there's the X-Men #1 4-issue, stretch where they all join together. And you got to think they did that on purpose. They said, oh, a bunch of people are going to want to get those 4 issues signed, so we're going to sell them a package of 3, and then they got to buy the 1 additional. So it it would be too good if it was actually a set of 4. It would just be too perfect.
Right.
And maybe it would be like everybody in line would have the same bright idea to get those 4 comics signed. So I ended up getting 3. Here, I'll show you what I got. I ended up getting 3 issues signed from that series. I got of that same 4-panel issue number 1, I got the Magneto cover just because I was thinking, I knew I was going to get this Wolverine cover signed, and so I was thinking, well, I don't want to get I want to get Magneto because that would be, I don't want all 3 issues I get signed to have Wolverine on it. I love Jim Lee's Psylocke, so I got a Psylocke cover. And then I got the number 11, X-Men number 11 is just a classic cover. Right. I have this T-shirt, and there's actually there's like a second printing of this cover with a silver background that's also cool. So I got those 3 issues signed, and so I thought it was pretty good choices. I don't know. I don't think it really like like those are not like super valuable comics, but there were ones that I thought were like in the best condition that if I was to get them sent to, I won't do CGC because they don't do the signature authorization. But if I were to send it off to get by the CBCS, I had to go look at it to see what it was. CBCS, then they could verify the signature. And I thought these had the best chance at getting a decent grade because, I don't want to send it off if it's not going to get a good grade. So that's why I chose those. And they all had different characters on the covers. But the guy in front of me in line had like Jim Lee tattoos. So he had all these different like Superman and Batman covers that Jim Lee had done in the past tattooed. And so he's showing, it's really cool. They were really nice too. Like they look like really high quality, expensive tattoos. And he was showing Jim Lee. He's like, man, I'm such a fan. Like, check this out. And he's like showing him all the tattoos and stuff. And so I came up next right after this guy. And I basically just handed Jim Lee my comics, and I said, I'm sorry, man, I don't have any tattoos. And he was like, yeah, we need a tattoo line and a non-tattoo line. I said, right. yeah, you do. And that was the Jim Lee experience right there. That was the whole experience. But not long. You got a signature too. You got another Lee even.
Jay Lee,
right?
Who's the artist for, among other things, the Dark Tower, graphic novels, and I totally spaced and forgot to bring him in here, but I took my hardcover of the first issue, and
that's cool that you had that. I didn't know that you had that. That was a really cool one.
But then when I was standing there, I was looking at his table, and I just happened, like, I was looking at some of the different art, and then I saw, like, I was like, oh, that one's cool. And it just kind of, like, hit me that was Roland in front of the Dark Tower. And I was like, oh, crap, I got to get that one. Yeah. And, like, I'll wind up buying that, and I'll probably frame that one.
Yeah.
And put it with my Stephen King collection or something. But yeah, that was really cool. He was a nice guy. He was kind of quiet. He was just sitting there drawing, and no one was really bothering him. I was like, hey man, like, nice, just nice artwork. You never know what to say when you get up there. Like,
yeah, that was my thing too. With it's like, I don't know what am I going to tell Jim Lee? You don't want to say nothing because it feels like if you just go through and you don't say anything, it's too transactional. But then, like, what are you going to say that he hasn't heard before? And like, what is there to that's a really cool. So Jay Lee did the Wolverine. There's a bunch of Wolverine issues that he did. He's probably most famous for that, but then the Dark Tower is really distinct looking because
it is
because of his artwork. He has a really distinct style. It's as soon as you see a Jay Lee cover that's who did it. It's almost like I wonder what his process is because it's almost like cropped like it's digital. Like it's the hair is always like wildly like floating in space and stuff. Like it's I wonder what his process is.
I was kind of looking at what he was drawing, and not. I don't think it was anything Dark Tower related, but it was definitely like that same black, like pen drawing on white, and I could tell he'd already sketched it out. He was going back in and filling stuff in.
Okay.
But I couldn't exactly tell it. I wasn't going to go like, "Hey man, what's you drawing there?" But I think that was, at least for that in particular, like that Dark Tower painting, I think that was kind of what he did. Is looked like he gone in and penciled it and then was going back with pen and doing it darker and everything. It looked really cool though.
I was telling you before the convention that I wanted to look for Kobold Press stuff, which I didn't see any RPG related stuff at all. Comics,
a little bit.
Comics were bursting out of the seams. I mean, there was more. I think last year I felt like there was lacking a amount, but maybe I'm misremembering. But there was, may have not been SC Comicon, but there was some cons I went to last year that I felt like there was a lot of, I don't want to be demeaning, but like there was a lot of like what I would call arts and crafts vendors, like people that make things and sell it, and it's loosely related, but there was no like comic vendors, like comic book stores that set up shop and they have a wall of comics behind them and a bunch of boxes in front of them, and that was like there was a ton of that. I was overwhelmed. I actually came this year to buy comics. Like I was looking forward to this all year, and then in the midst of it, I really felt like, well, for one thing, I kind of spent my money on the Jim Lee thing, and so I didn't want to spend too much more than that. But then on top of all that, like I just felt like there's so like I can't make a decision. Like I'm like stalled by like there's so many good books here, not great prices. I mean, they're con prices, which are usually a little bit higher, but like there's so many good books. Like I just don't know. I don't know what I should be getting or what I should be looking for. And so I ended up, and plus, if I was there by myself, I would have taken more time, but like also like Elliot is like ready to leave after a few hours. And like, so like I'm having to like kind of rush through, and then I'm like, well, I don't want to just like buy something just to buy it, just to feel like I bought something. And so I did end up buying a comic. And it goes along with, if you can barely see this one right here. So this is the first issue of the Chris Claremont Days of Future Past, which was, became the inspiration for the movie. Well, I never had that second issue that went after that, so I picked up a pretty crisp copy of it. Yeah, the guy, it's not CGC graded. It is a newsstand, and I haven't taken it out of here to see. The back could be destroyed for all I know, but from what I can see from the front, it's in really good condition. The color looks good. I don't know if it's been pressed, but it looks really flat, and I only paid $30. Only paid $30 for it, so I think that was a legit price. But yeah, I there was a ton of good stuff there. I wanted to fill up some of my cheaper runs that I want to finish collecting. X-Force, Web of Spider-Man. Well, some of the Web of Spider-Man stuff's expensive, but you know what I mean, back and forth.
Right.
There was a booth that had dollar bins. It was like the first dollar bins I looked in had like almost the whole run of X-Force, like all the dollar comics of X-Force.
Right.
And I was like, but I don't want to, I want to find 5 or 6 and then go to another booth and find another. Like it feels cheap if I just hand this guy $100 and get them all. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem right to do it that way. So I ended up not buying any. I ended up not picking up anything from that booth, but I don't know.
I could see, like, when we walked around, it was like massive comic book thing, massive comic book thing, massive comic book thing. I was like, God, like you could just see people like going through all the boxes. I'm like, man, that's going to take, just doing that would take you all day. Like, just doing those. But now we walked around a good bit. We found one guy that was selling, like, I mean, he had a lot of the D&D books.
Okay.
He had
I didn't see
some
anything like that.
Pathfinder. He had Forgotten
Wow.
Realms stuff.
Okay.
He didn't ask him about Kobold Press. He said they
Yeah.
didn't have it, but he gave me a website to go to that he says pretty good for it. And he said that he likes Kobold. They've played some of the Kobold stuff and they really like
Yeah.
it.
I
Um,
I asked
of
Scott.
course, Empire.
Yeah.
They
So
have their booth.
I stopped at the Empire booth, just talked to Scott for a minute, and I asked him. I said, "Hey, are you all going to get any Kobold Press stuff in the store?" And he said that I think he said that they had recently started looking into it or something. So
Yeah, that's what he told me too.
maybe we'll start seeing something there at the store. But
But
yeah.
then, now we did see a really cool booth that was dice. Um,
Oh yeah, I saw. Yeah, they're always there.
like
They have
yeah,
the nice metal dice and everything.
dice and like wood and bone. They had some crystal dice, and I was like, man, I'd love to get those, but they were like $100 for like a set.
Yeah, well, you know
Um,
what happens when you do that? Because I've done it. I bought a $70 pair of dice.
and then you don't use them.
I never use them. They're my least favorite. They're my least favorite set of dice.
Exactly.
I use them out of guilt. I use them out of guilt that I paid that much for them, and I hate it.
The only ones that I looked at that I was like they were a little bit more expensive as they were liquid core,
Yeah.
and they had he had two different ones. One had like pressed flowers inside them, and
Oh
like
yeah.
when you looked at them, it was really cool. And then the other ones were dragon eyes,
Oh, I've seen
which
those.
were
Yeah.
really cool. But again, they were expensive, and I was like,
My sister got me a
um,
nice pair of dice for Christmas, and it's that hollow core, and it's got like oil and glitter in it, so that when you roll it,
yeah,
it continues like a swirl. It was a pretty good gift. I think she did better than the rest of my family. That was the best gift. I think. Wife excluded.
Cooper bought a set of dice from there. He got some of the Totoro
Mm-hmm.
from the Studio Ghibli movie. They
Yeah.
have like little things in them, which that they look pretty cool. But they were cheap. They were the same price as normal dice, so I wouldn't want anything extravagant. But and I went and bought a bunch of the little Lego
Oh
figure.
yeah.
I bought 6 for like $20, which is crazy. So we went by this one place, and I was like, "Oh, there's some of those Lego guys," and I kind of looked at them, and they were like $5 or so a piece, something like that.
Yeah.
And no, they were a little bit more than that. Um, and I was like, we'll come back by, and then he had a decent selection. Then we walked down further, and when we were coming back, there was another one that was huge. They had just hundreds and hundreds of different Lego minis, and they were way cheaper. And I was like,
Yeah.
like I said, they were like 6 for 20, and I was like, okay, I'll look there. So I got a couple Star Wars ones, E.T.
I've always looked
Indiana
at those.
Jones.
I've never gotten any though. But
I
I've
just
always
put
looked
them.
at those.
I've got some Star Wars stuff that I got like this thing over my desk at work that I put stuff on. So I just bought some of those and stuck up there. And then Cooper's got a huge collection of
Yeah.
the little Lego figures. But yeah, I mean, overall, like there was a lot of like cool cosplay stuff. I don't know if did y'all go down to where you could take pictures with different people, like the Star Wars people and all that stuff.
No,
Um,
that was way down at the end down there was actually
yes.
where the booth was that I picked up that comic from. And I told the guy too, I said, "You're like way out here in the middle of nowhere." He was kind of upset about it, but yeah, no, that was right. We didn't even get to walk through Artist Alley really much because that was right whenever Elliot was like burnt out, and we were
Right.
we were just trying to entertain him and get out of there.
They had somebody that was dressed as General Grievous from
Oh
Star Wars,
really?
and I mean it was 8 feet tall or more, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, it was fantastic. Like I was like, wow, that's really well done.
I've seen people do that at other conventions. I didn't go down there though. Yeah, we got so what Elliot got with his money, he's been doing chores around. He's been doing chores for like $2 here, $3 there, or whatever. And he had like $25 saved up, and we put a little bit more money with it to get it's like a cosplay sword. And he didn't know what it was, but I told him what it was, but it was Sting from Lord of the Rings. Bilbo and Frodo's sword. And then I told him, I said, it'll glow blue if orcs are around. And he was like, because I think that's right? It's orcs.
Yes.
It glows blue.
Yes.
Yeah, orcs. And so I said, it'll glow blue if there's orcs around. And he was like, really? And I was like, no, you have to pretend. I should have went along with it though, because when's he ever going to be around an orc? You know, he'll never know. You ever seen it glow blue? All right. You ever seen an orc? It must work.
And then all of a sudden it starts glowing, and you're like, oh, no.
But he really loves it, because he had been wanting to make a staff. So we were at Lowe's getting stuff to redo our stairs, and while we were there, he was looking at like the dowel poles and stuff that they have, and so I got one for him, and I said, we'll look up online or something to see how we can make a little staff like top for it, to make a staff out of it. And he's been playing with that. Well, then this sword, like now he loves the sword. And yesterday I got my 11/22/63 book, and I got his staff, and I was like being like the bad wizard, like shooting spells at him, and he was like, fighting me with the sword, and I was like, you really like that sword? He was like, I really do. He was just like the most like genuine he could say it. He was like, I really do. So that was
Was he wanting that sword beforehand, or do y'all just happen to see it?
No, he wanted all kinds of crap, and then we finally convinced him he wanted stuff that was just like, he wanted those mystery box things, and you just don't know what's going to be in there, and they're like $50. And if I pay $50 for something, I want to know what I'm getting. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I understand the concept of like, well, you might get something more valuable than $50, or it could be something really cool, and I don't doubt, but you're not getting to choose. So like, if I get something I don't care about, like, and especially for him, like he's not going to care about a Godzilla statue or something, like, I don't know. And so we just kept shopping around different things, and then he would see something, and we'd look at the price and be like, oh no, that's not a good thing. Let's look at something else. And then finally we landed on the sword, and I thought it was a little overpriced, because they probably get 200 of these from AliExpress for $60, and they sell them $30 a piece at these conventions. But I don't know. It seemed like a good, like, $30, whatever. He loves it.
It's worth it now. So like Cooper wanted to look for pop heads too. So he loves pop heads, but I always try and like, are you sure that's what you want to spend your money on, a pop head? Like, and he keeps saying that's his college fund. I'm like, I don't know where you're going to college, but they may pay for
if you stay in state, book. Maybe.
Right? Like,
yeah, I know the pop vinyl thing. Like, I don't know. It's hard to put your finger on why it's different than something like comics or records or things that tend to really hold value over a long period of time. But it's never really struck me as something that's truly going to hold value over a long period of time. Like we should do like a special investment segment where we just go over like fandoms that people invest in that think they're gonna hit it rich, and that would be one of the ones where I would say I don't think it's worth the investment.
No, at some point, I mean, at some point it does have to.
I have a lot of them.
I mean, like, he's got a room full of them.
Yeah,
and then like, I mean, you take like Beanie Babies from back in the 80s and 90s. Like, I mean, those things, some of those were worth ridiculous amounts of money, and now it's like,
I had one of these experiences. Just yesterday. I found out that something that I did not hold on to that I should have. And when I say did not hold on to, I don't mean like, I had this years ago. I mean like within the last couple months, I had something that I should not have opened, and I opened it. And then recently I found out that it would have been worth if I had sold it now on eBay, just waited a month or two, it would have been worth. I bought it for $150. They're selling now for like $450, and that is the beta booster box for that card game that I'm trying to get people to play, Sorcery Contested Realm. So I bought the booster box for $150 at a store in Augusta, Georgia, because it was selling for $200 in other stores. I really wanted the cards from it. I want to play the game, and there was a few cards that I really wanted, just because they were cool cards that I'd like. I'd probably put them on my shelf or something. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to open it. I didn't get any of the cards I wanted. I got a lot of cards for actually playing the game. I can build a bunch of decks now, but the cards that I wanted for collector reasons, I didn't get. And now those boxes are selling for like $300 to $400 because there's this big. If you're into LCGs or other than Magic card games, you probably have heard of this card store called Covenant, and they had like a limitless supply of these booster boxes through some agreement or deal that they had with the Contested Realms with the Sorcery Company, and they recently sold out. And they like sort of surprise announced that they sold out. They didn't have like a ticker saying we got 4 left, we got 2 left.
Right.
It was just like they just announced like, yeah, we sold out. And that like just inflated the price, because now everybody that's got them unopened are like, all right, put them, we could put these on the market, baby. And like now they're on the market for like $400. And like on the one hand, I only know one person in town that even plays the game, and he's really good, and I've never made it through an entire game. So I feel like he's not the person that I want to learn to play with. And I don't know of any stores that are interested in like starting a regular night for the game. And even if they did, you can't buy it. If you're a local card store, how do you entice people to play this game that you can't sell until?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so I'm not going to get to play the game, and so I shouldn't have opened these cards. I should have just held on to them until now, and then put them on eBay. That would have been the best thing to do. But you can't. You
can't unbox it.
Right. I can't redo it. It could be one of those resellers.
Right.
My packs will be hot glued together. Yeah, man. They're beautiful cards though. The game is worth buying just because the cards are so cool.
Cards.
Yeah. Anyway, I got way off track there. What were we talking about? Oh, one thing is, I know why you were stuck in traffic. I'm surprised. Where did you park? Where did you end up parking?
We didn't park that far away.
Did you get to park in the real parking or in the across the lot parking near the airport?
We were like, so that first light off of the exit, we couldn't go down. The next road down, we turned into, and then there was a parking spot like right there. So we parked and then walked across a road and then walked through some grass, and we were at the front door. So it wasn't that far.
Okay. Because where we parked at, when we got there, we were like literally one of the first cars there, because the people directing traffic, our guy was like being trained. Like they were like, all right, you tell him to go in here. And then when we parked, I heard him say like, great job. You did good. You did good. So we were that early that like they're still showing the ropes to the people that were hired for the day to do it. And then when we left, I'm telling you, there was not a single parking space.
Oh yeah.
They had filled up the parking space at the little airport right there, and the actual convention center parking was full. Sounds like you guys might have parked like on the other side of the convention center or something.
Yes.
Okay, yes. So I didn't see over there, but I got to imagine if cars were waiting to park, we couldn't leave. There was 3 cars trying to leave, and we were trying to leave. They had not moved the cones to let people out yet. We actually kind of squeezed between some cones that someone else had moved before us. And like, whenever you said you were waiting in traffic, that's what I was thinking. I was like, how the heck are they going to get another car in here?
Yeah, I know, right?
Like now that we've moved, one car can park there, but then it's full again. Like there's nowhere to park.
Well, like when we pulled in, we had to go up this road, and then like there was some cars pulling into this one parking lot, and then more cars were still going straight, and I assume that maybe got you a little bit closer. So a bunch of cars went around, and like, so I was like, well, I'm just going to turn here. I was like, we've been waiting long enough. So I turned in, and the guy, you know, it was card only, which is also weird.
Oh, it was card only.
Yeah, all those lots all over there just said card only. So,
wow, that's bizarre.
I pulled in, and he was like, you know, I did my card, and he was like, "You got lucky." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're my last car." I was like, "Crap! I'm gonna have to drive around all this lot, find the one spot." There are actually probably there was a good number of open parking spots where people had probably left already, but yeah, I mean, we got lucky, and this one we were making fun when we were sitting in traffic. You know, we were trying to turn left across, you know, North Pleasantburg, and then there was a huge line coming up the opposite way, trying to turn right into that same road. And like, whenever traffic was light, like the cars coming the opposite way would let whoever would, you know, come in from the left, because you didn't have that many opportunities.
Yeah.
And like, this one guy was sitting there waiting for I think it was the car that was right in front of me. He was going to let him turn left, and this Mustang that was like 3 cars back hopped out of line, drove around, and pulled in right there.
Oh.
And Cooper was like, "Uh-oh, we're going to see a fight." And I was like, what a complete douche guy. Like, and then like, so when we went to park, we pulled in, and he's one of the ones that went around, and he was still sitting in line, like trying to get up to a parking spot when we were walking up to the thing, and we were like, and the old Nelson Muntz laugh.
That's funny.
Man, it was very crazy. But like I said, once we got in there, we had a blast. You know, the other thing too with the will call thing is we got up there and we bought the tickets online, obviously, and then you have the little scan thing.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Okay, you got to get your wristband. Go to the guy at will call." Well, there's a huge line for people for will call. And I was like, so we paid online.
Yeah.
We still have to wait in line. And then like, I thought they were going to scan the things on the app. He was just like, "You got your tickets?" I was like, "Yeah, right here." And he looks at us, "Okay." He just hands me 2 wristbands.
Yeah.
I was like,
that was the same thing with me.
Yeah. I was like, I could just go with that same phone, and 50 different people could have used that to get in. And just, "Hey, here's my ticket." Like,
yeah, I know.
So that's kind of weird that they didn't actually scan something.
We talked about that in the Jim Lee line. We were talking about the same thing. As a matter of fact, there was issues in that line too, where like they didn't scan our tickets. They checked off our name on a list, but then like he didn't give a few people the little tickets that whenever you go beyond the door, they had Jim Lee like in his own room. That was like a separate convention.
Okay.
They had like other little booths set up that all had like original art or like comics that he had done. Some of them were like CGC graded signature series comics, and you could buy those, you know, or bring what you brought and get signed. Well, like they didn't give a few people the tickets, and so I was one of the people. I had to go back to the guy that was supposed to give me the tickets and say, "Hey, you didn't give me any tickets." And then he said, "Okay, well, how many did you need?" And I said 3, but I was thinking I could have just said anything, you know, like what?
Well,
you don't remember how the guy that went through with 12 tickets? Oh, all right. Last thing, and then we can get off. I feel like we've been on this for too long, but last thing, and we'll get off to SC Comicon. I had a Curb Your Enthusiasm moment in the line. I thought this would make a great Curb episode. So the girl, I told you I really wanted 4, not just 3, because then I could do the 4 X-Men covers. Well, the girl in front of me in line purchased the experience and only had 2 items to sign, so she had 1 spare. And the con employee is in front of us, and I was thinking, would it be too imposing of me to say, "Hey, will you take this through as your third, and then I'll do these 3, and then once we get on the other side, you give it back to me, and I'll give you $20 or something," you know?
Right.
But I was thinking the guy, the SC Comicon guy, could be like, "No, that's not allowed." And then
Here.
if this were Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David would get in a whole argument with the guy, but she paid for 3 and she's only going to use 2. What if I give this to her? Can you stop me from giving it to her? Then she gives it back to me when we leave. Can you stop that?
You can see Larry David doing all that. So come on, what are you doing?
Right. So I almost had that moment. I mean, and it was like like I got to do this now, or I'm gonna lose the time. Like I can't do it if I wait. But I got cold feet. I chickened out. I didn't do it. All right. Well, I wonder, with all the traffic and everything, I wonder if this was their busiest year or what, I wonder how that worked out.
It was pretty busy when we were there, so definitely.
Yeah, I feel like it's probably the busiest one I've been to, at least in how it felt.
And they had some,
Gimli was there.
Well, so they had some pretty big people there that like Gimli.
I don't know the actor's real name.
John Rhys Davies.
Oh yeah, John Rhys Davies.
He was Sala in the Indiana Jones movies, and then you had Ashley Eckstein. He's Eckstein. She's the voice for the animated Ahsoka, Clone Wars,
okay.
Rebels, and all that stuff. And then you had the guy that did Obi-Wan's voice from the cartoons as well. He was right next to her. And then Shatner was there. We saw him.
Oh crap, that was this year. Shatner, I didn't even see Shatner. Holy cow.
Yeah, he was
where'd they have him hidden off at?
Where all those people were, like there was like a line of different booths, and he was in one of those booths.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy. I thought they would, because Jim Lee had his own little wing over there. I thought they'd have a Shatner wing over on the other side.
That's what I was looking for when we walked over there. I was like, I saw Shatner there, and I was like, oh, I bet Jim Lee's right here. And I saw a big line, and it wasn't
crazy
for Jim Lee. It was for
Shatner. You would think Shatner would draw a bigger crowd. That's crazy,
right? I mean, his line was pretty big, but like,
I imagine.
He was just out there, like.
That's funny.
Which was crazy, because that's where they had a couple different wrestlers that were right there, and the what's her name from The Office.
I don't know her name. I know you're talking about. Yeah,
but she was right there. She was like one down from Shatner, I think. So we walked that just to see everybody.
I forgot all about Shatner being there. That is so wild. He was at Dragon Con one year when I was there. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe just his fame was higher then or something. But like, he had like his own. You had to do the Shatner experience to get to to get to his area.
I wanted to yell out, "Con!"
Yeah. He recently had some little bit of drama because he said. I don't know the exact quote, so I only read the headline, but he said something negative about the new Star Trek. And I think Star Trek fans are upset with him about it.
Well, I know he and Takai don't get along with each other, so.
Yeah. That's my dad's Star Trek is TOS, but I've always loved Next Generation, and I know it's sacrilege in some circles. And you know what? I had a thought. This will move the conversation a little bit. I had a thought while I was cutting grass today, and I was listening to the Howling Dark, and I was thinking what I like about the character Hadrian in those books is the same thing I like about Jean-Luc Picard. It's that because he's like this aristocratic, studied character that has like studied history and different writers and all these cultural, influences from across hundreds of years. He can quote Shakespeare. Like one of the great things about Picard was like, even though it takes place hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years after Shakespeare, he can still reference that, you know. And Hadrian's the same way. Like, I can't remember who he was quoting, but
he quotes Dante and Milton.
That's what I was going to say.
And Shakespeare, several times.
It was the Milton thing that he said that made me have this thought, and I thought that's what's so great about him being an aristocratic character. If this was the same story, but Hadrian was a street urchin or something, which I know he goes through a phase, but you know, and he didn't have that education, then we would be stuck, grounded in only Hadrian's world, with no comparisons or visits, you know, back to our point of perspective. And so that's one of the things that I in a way, Hadrian's very similar to Jean-Luc Picard.
I get it. You know, another kind of historical reference in Howling Dark, which I was going to ask you about, and I don't know if I missed it, but they're talking about Sid Arthur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sid Arthur, yeah.
I'm assuming from the way the talks about that is, because it's you know, like, again, it's kind of like this historical figure, sort of like, you know, from the earthen days, and I'm assuming that is supposed to be King Arthur. That's what I was getting out of it.
Yeah, probably.
Sid Arthur was like King Arthur, and it's like it's taking on like a new, like, life of its own in this day and age where they are, and you know, they may think of him as a real person and not know that it was a fable or something like that.
Yeah.
Because every time they would say it, I'd be like, I feel like they're talking about King Arthur. And I also like, what's his name too? It's kind of like the anti-Hadrian.
Karn Sagara. Karn Sagara. Yeah. So,
because he's very well spoken and well read, and of course he's been alive for what they say,
thousands of
years, like that. So
my plan was to go into my hot take before we did this, but it was too good of a segue. It was too good of a segue. Let's do some. So what we're talking about is Howling Dark.
We'll try to keep this as a little bit spoilery free.
We'll do it a little less spoilery. Although I think we're at a point in the book where, like, anything we spoil here is inconsequential. Like, you know, if you're just starting, we're not going to say anything that's going to matter to you. But we'll keep it on the themes of the book. But this is Howling Dark, which is book 2 of the Sun Eater series by Christopher Roucchio. You saw how I said it so fast that you can't tell if I said it wrong. Roucchio, yeah.
I think that's right.
Yeah, dude. So last episode we discussed it. I had not gotten to that character yet, to Karn Sagara, and the king with 10,000 eyes. It's amazing that I guess this is. Yeah, I guess it is. I apologize. There is no way for us to talk about this if you don't want to get spoiled about this book. There's going to be vague spoilers. I'm sorry, but I think it's amazing that in the first book, Karn Sagara was this, you know,
like King Arthur. Like he was a
legend. It was like a
legend. Like
Hadrian would talk about it like you were in on the joke. You know what I mean? Like in the first book, Hadrian would talk about all of these historical figures that he heard about as a child, and it was as if he's telling the story like we're in on it, like we know who he's talking about, like And I thought myself, I remember there's one line where he says, and you laugh, but I thought myself like the hero Karn Sagara and you know, yada yada yada, and then he intertwines that with things that we do recognize like Shakespeare and stuff like that, Dante, and then in this book that turns to pay off into a real character, and it ties in the book of the king with 10,000 eyes that he gets from oh god, I can't think of anybody's name right now. Yeah, Gibson.
Tor Gibson. Yeah.
Yep. And that was like such a good revelation. And I don't how does this just, I'm amazed by this writer. This writer is amazing. He how does he pull this off? Yeah. And
Some of the other things with it too were like, and I forgot which character says it in passing, sort of, when they're talking about, is this the real? Is it really him, or is it like some?
Yeah.
And they're like, he said like my brother or whatever when we were kids, kind of like a Halloween thing. They would dress up as on cigar and play. That was like it was it was like our Luke Skywalker kind of thing. It's like
it would be like if I don't know. It would be like if one day you went to the moon and Luke Skywalker was like a real person that lived on the moon.
Exactly, like, which is really cool. And like I told you that's the cover. So
yeah.
The description of him, like, and I think I told you it got really, it didn't get the way I said it. I didn't mean it for it to sound like it was getting bad, but it just like it went from like fantasy sci-fi to really, really crazy heavy sci-fi.
I think I'm around the point you were then when you said that. What moment was it that prompted you to send me that message? That like, boy, this is taking a left turn.
It was pretty much when they go to the throne room and like, well, kind of when
they bring the Cielson to Karn Segura.
That part and all that up to it, and then coming up, there's more that you're gonna.
So where I'm at now, they just fought the big spider creature thing that was guarding the children, and they've spoken to two of the children, and that's like right where I left off.
That was some very Matrix.
Kind
of like the little pods with kids and like so that that's the other idea is like, is it real or is it Memorex type thing? Because like he's 15,000 years old, but is that him or is it?
He keeps changing bodies.
He keeps changing bodies, which is also really cool because we talked about last time with the old people waiting.
Yeah, actually, we didn't talk about that on the show.
We didn't? Okay.
No, we talked about that outside of the show because we left off last time right as like I didn't know it, but the very next sentence I read, they were reaching the planet, and so that like all that happened after the last episode. But yeah, the concept of Karn Segura has been alive for thousands of years or more than 1,000 years, and so his concept of time is so skewed that if you are in his waiting room at his office, you have an appointment to meet him, and he says, "Oh, I'll be right with you." To him, that could be 30, 45 days,
Right.
Because
there's like some people that have been there for months and they don't leave the room. They're just like hanging out. Like they'll bring him bread or, some sort of food, and then they'll like kind of lay there like, that was crazy.
So it's it's like a prison waiting room is like what it is. They can leave at any time, but but they're basically in this prison because they're at the whim of needing his attention for some reason.
And so this is like brings up this whole thing is where like the Chantry and basically everything they are against, which is like the melding of computer and human, and like with the spider thing, and with like even Consagar himself, and like the little creature that comes onto the ship to fly them in. Like these are people that have like basically like that spider thing was a head with a giant body and a mechanical body, and they're changing, they're moving consciousness from one body to another to prolong lives, and they're referred to as demons or demoniacs, and like this is like because that's where like the Milton and Dante thing come up, because this is
and he's getting deeper and deeper too. So
he's deeper and deeper into the different levels of hell, essentially. And there's which I don't know if you've gotten, he sees the one room that or a doorway that's sealed off that you can't get past.
Mm-hmm.
And and they keep talking about lower levels.
Yeah.
And he knows that there's something beyond this wall or beyond this door. And they even mentioned like the old city. I kept thinking of, again, Futurama with like the city under in the sewer kind of thing, like
New York and New York or whatever.
New York, yeah. And then like, because he even asked a question, is the ocean down there? And they're like, ocean? Like, what are you talking about? Like, so yeah, I mean, like he is literally in in the Chandri version of hell. And
yeah,
you can tell like the crew is kind of not okay with it to an extent, but he's even though it speaks against everything that he's been taught, Hadrian's able to look at it with a more like open mind, in that he knows he's got to do this for any hopes of gaining peace or getting back, even saving himself and his crew, because at this point, they're all mutineers, and he knows that the success of this journey is going to be tantamount to them saving their lives in essence too. So he's able to overlook over some of that stuff.
They can't go home again. Yeah,
they can't go home again without being successful.
So what do you think about Karn Segura? So in a weird way, I know that when they first introduced him, I thought, oh, I'm going to love this guy. Hadrian talks about him so much, and he's like basically like a role model to Hadrian. Like Hadrian in the first book, like looks up to these great, rulers and leaders and legendary warriors, and models himself after him. But then now that we get to know him, we're like, he's kind of doing this evil thing by like raising these children just to become his new, their spare parts, is what Hadrian says.
Right.
But I still kind of like.
Oh, I think his character's awesome. But like, there's more. Obviously, there's more coming up.
Yeah.
But the one thing I took that kept coming to my mind was like an ancient Dracula, or like an ancient vampire that's been like around for so long that, like, I mean, I think eccentric doesn't even come close to it, but like he's like normal everyday things have long ceased to matter to him, and like it's he's probably going insane to an extent, just because he's been around for so long, and nothing means anything, and so sometimes maybe he has to create things to.
And in the first part of the book, before they introduced his character, they did introduce the idea of like, how much memory can the human mind really withstand? If you overcame the biological aspect of living forever, could you ever overcome the mental, cerebral aspect of it? Could the human mind just withstand that much of a lifetime, and that many memories? And Karn Segura he probably can't. I mean, that's probably why he seems nuts. The scene where I forget the he sends the like bed servant robot thing to Hadrian. It wasn't a robot, it was a homunculus. And again, they keep bringing up that Hadrian's grandfather was killed by a homunculus. This is like the 12th time that it's come up. I don't know why. I don't know how that's going to be important in one of the future books, but that is obviously that seed has been planted firmly. Like they keep planting that seed. And maybe at this point in writing, Christopher doesn't know. He just knows he's going to use that later. So he's still plotting how it's going to be. But that scene was wild.
I was like a very attractive, very pleasing body wise, face
and
wise,
probably
everything.
not used to being turned down, you know.
Right.
And Hadrian's like completely not interested, but she just doesn't. She just doesn't know that signal. You know what I mean?
The crazy thing is, talking about that with Karen Sagara is like Hadrian's about to give in,
Yeah.
and then like he sees something in her eyes, and he realizes that
Yeah.
it's now not
So
her, it's Consagara looking through the eyes, and
yeah,
it's kind of a turn off there,
it's like a
but
John.
like
There's like a being John Malkovich moment there.
exactly.
No, that
Um,
I mean that's essay. You know, like even if Hadrian was interested and didn't immediately turn her down. For one thing, whenever Hadrian said no, leave. Obviously, she should have just left. You know what I mean?
right.
But even beyond that persistence, even if Hadrian was like completely interested, Karn like sort of listening in on it and being a fly on the wall, that is a complete
Experiencing it, yes.
that is a complete overstep of any sort of privacy. Like that is an understatement of the century. And so that's what I mean by like I hate that I like this character, you know, like
No, right.
he's such a like but you know what I think it is I think that it's not I don't think it's like a gratification thing. This doesn't justify it, but I think he is just like spying on Hadrian. He's spying on everyone. Everything that happens in this castle of his, he's the king with 10,000 eyes.
Right.
He's watching everything that happens in this castle.
I like you were saying, I don't think it was necessarily like he was trying to, do it as some sort of sexual thing.
Yeah.
I think he was mainly doing it to learn about Hadrian.
But I also
see what kind of person he is, to see like
to
keep tabs, like any number of things. I think he just used that because he figured Mel is going to want some hot chick, and that's the easiest way to get in, and not because.
But I would go so far. I believe that any hanky panky that's ever happened in this castle, he's watched. I think he watches everything. I think he knows every drop of spilled tea in this entire castle because he watches everyone all the time.
I've been watching that show Suits.
Yeah.
And there's a character that gets introduced at some point. It's a really good looking female, and she's not like a investigator, but basically she like kind of corporate espionage.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially what she does is like she'll find the big honcho with some corporation, and get them in bed, and they spill their secrets.
There was that Russian lady with the RNC a couple years ago.
Yeah. And so like, with the whole sex thing, that's when people get vulnerable.
Yeah.
And they, you don't think like, oh, this is just some, dopey, good looking lady. I can say stuff and trying to impress her, trying to build my ego, not realizing that what you're saying is
spilling everything.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm sure that's exactly why he's got a homunculus that's extremely attractive, and
it seems like it just came with the room too. So I guess that's my point. It's like he's interested in Hadrian, obviously, but I think this is like Hadrian. I think this is a ploy that he uses a lot of times to spy on people.
Because he doesn't believe Hadrian in what he's saying, that the reason he's there. He doesn't. So like
he doesn't trust the humans,
right?
And I think you're further along than I am, but I think I don't know. I don't know how to feel about Tanaran, because I feel that there's a possibility that Tanaran could like decide. I feel like Hadrian's being legit and this Karn Cigar guy is crazy, so I'm actually going to help Hadrian. I think that could be something that might happen in the plot. I don't know, but
you're getting ready to find a lot of stuff getting ready to happen. Like I was not expecting it. So like, yeah,
okay.
there's two or three really big things that are getting ready to happen.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I kept thinking in the book, I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then, wow, this is crazy. And wow, this is crazy. I'm like, and then like at this point, it feels like it was kind of like ebbing down a little bit. And then I looked and I was like, it still was like, you got 7 hours left. I was like, what the hell? What else is going to happen now? Like, so who knows?
Yeah. I actually, I think I'm
on 54 or 55 right now.
I'm on 42. I listened to 42 driving home today, so I'm on 43 now, I guess.
Yeah, you should be.
Oh wow! Looking at it in the book, that's pretty significant. Let me find.
So if you're in the part with the 2 kids, the 2 kids and the spider thing, then you're getting ready to get to a really giant something's getting ready to happen.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is right where I ended. So they talked to the 2 kids, found out that the kids are like, they're like raised in this environment where they know what they are. They know their spare parts for Karn, and
they don't care.
They don't. Not only do they not care, it's probably an honor to them. It's like going to heaven.
Right.
Is being joined with Karn Segura, and so they're totally, just indoctrinated into this. And I can't remember anything that happens after that. So I think that's right where I've left off is there.
They're probably trying to escape now.
Yeah, they're trying to escape, and that's what they were doing. Is they were toying with the idea of offering to help them escape also, but
kids
they don't want to. Yeah,
and so you're probably the next thing you're going to read is what the big thing that's going to happen.
So Hadrian, he talks about it in that scene in his internal monologue, but like a lawful good character, a Peter Parker, would not get that this is wrong and I've got to set it right. He would die trying to save all of these kids, whereas like Hadrian's character and the way he's been through the whole series is more, I guess, chaotic good, where the greater good will justify the means. The ends will justify the means. Right. Even if he knows he can't save these kids now, he can save way more lives and do way more good by trying to end this war with the Cielson. And so he's just set on that goal. And I don't know. It's an interesting. It makes Hadrian an interesting character because he's not lawful good. While I also like those characters. It just I really love the character of Hadrian Marlowe. I think I can't get enough of it.
I like him and Valka are really good characters.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we got Hadrian and Valka back because at the beginning of this book they weren't together, and I thought, oh, is that going to be the end of the Hadrian Valka story?
Right.
But it was good that they did that because they did that at the beginning. Now we have this building tension again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas if it had just started where it left off, there wouldn't have been many places to go from there other than, they fall in love and finally get married, but they had this whole thing where they had lives separate from each other, and now they're kind of finding that interest again. This book is way better than the first, I feel like. There was the first book had some moments that I thought were genius, like I loved, but then there was some long stretches where I felt like, okay, we're spending a lot of time on this that I feel like we don't need to. Whereas this book doesn't feel that way at all. Like I feel like I'm in the swing of this adventure,
Yeah, like I said, after like chapter 3 or 4, it just took off, and it's been really good ever since. So, so I'm excited to get to the end of it.
So I got a proposition for the thing I've been teasing this whole episode about the Hasbro hot take.
All right.
Do you want to make it its own episode? We'll do it Wednesday. We won't wait another week. We can just do it Wednesday.
Yeah, we could do that.
Are you free Wednesday?
Should be.
So Wednesday we could do Hasbro hot take and our thoughts on Kobold Press, and make that an episode?
Kind of just a whole RPG.
Be a super RPG episode.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for it.
And I mentioned to you that I got that. So I purchased the PDF because you could get the whole thing for it was like $17 for the book that explains how to play the game, and it gives you 10 levels of a dungeon, and then they have an expansion after that is a separate book. So this is called 2D6 Dungeon, and I got both books for like $17, but I don't know if I can order it to the U.S. Everywhere I looked, it was all in Europe somewhere. I don't even know where. And so I'm worried I'll order it and it'll take forever to get here, or maybe I can't even order it to the U.S. So I just bought the PDF. Right. And so in buying the PDF, I printed out all of the material, and it was 105 cards that represent like the monsters and the items in the game. And last night, it took me like 2 hours to cut all these cards out and then put them in card sleeves with magic cards behind them. And after doing that, I was just like, yeah, I'm burnt. I'm not gonna play the game tonight. This was not
right.
So tonight I'm gonna look into making a character, but maybe I'll talk about that next week. The 2D6 dungeon. It's a solo RPG. So I have never done one of these before. I don't know if it's gonna be like a choose your own adventure kind of thing where you go through this dungeon and you roll dice, and based on how successful it tells you turn to page 47. I don't know what it's going to be like, but if it's cool, maybe I'll make some videos about that. I mean, it'd be easy to make material since it's solo. We don't have to like schedule.
Right.
But we'll see. And there's a whole bunch of these solo RPGs too. So if it's an interesting thing, it could be more content. Plus, I was thinking, I always wanted to do, when we were doing the Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign, I wanted to do a campaign prep episodes where I would kind of describe from the Dungeon Master's perspective, how am I going to prepare for this upcoming session, and and kind of give like a recap of the previous one, and then how I'm preparing for the next one. Maybe I should do that for this new Kobold Press campaign that we're running, because we're starting now, so now's a good time to do it. So maybe I'll do that too. So
yeah, that'd be a good idea.
More RPG content coming to the channel. We'll see how that goes. But you can't listen to those episodes. You're not allowed to listen.
Right? I know, right?
Hey, Cooper can't either.
I'd say our biggest fan won't be able to.
Yeah, I know. What are we going to do? Those episodes won't have any views. All right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening. And yeah, we'll get together Wednesday. And hot take, I believe... I'll go ahead and give my position. We'll flesh it out. I believe we should be rooting for Hasbro to fail. As Dungeons and Dragons fans, we should be rooting for them to fail. We'll talk about it next week, or we'll talk about it in 2 days. All right.
Right.
Peace.
Sounds good. Peace out.